Hi, my name is Judi Friedman, and I'm chairperson of a Connecticut all-volunteer, and I mean all-volunteer organization called PACE, People's Action for Clean Energy. And when we're talking about energy, we're talking about squeaky clean energy. And this organization, since 1973, has been devoted to educating the public about clean energy efficiency. We are extremely concerned about nuclear power, air pollution from oil and coal, fracking, natural gas lines, all sorts of things, because we really, really believe in health. We think of ourselves as a public health organization, and this program today is about health, your health, my health, and it's also another fun subject, money. This program is very much about money because the ideas that we're going to hear about today save money, and they make money, and they help make jobs in Connecticut. And we need jobs in Connecticut, and boy, oh boy, do we have an exciting potential, not only potential, but actually action going on with the solar industry in Connecticut. So today we have a very, very special guest, a man who's devoted a wonderful amount of time, has many skills, many connections, a charming man whose name is Mike Trahan, and he is the executive director of Solar Connecticut. So welcome, Mike, to the show, and thank you, listeners, for listening, because Mike is a very interesting and informative person. Mike, what is Solar Connecticut?
Thanks, Judy, for having me. Solar Connecticut began 7 years ago as an organization that was actually created by the state agency that manages the incentive program, which at the time was known as the Connecticut Clean Energy Fund. And that's the organization that manages the incentive program, and their idea was to get installers together, the installers who install solar on rooftops, get them together in an association to, at the time, commiserate over really the issues that they were dealing with at the time.
More.
So the idea was to create an association where they can work with each other, speak about issues that they're having with the industry, and try to promote a stronger industry for the state. And what was a group that could just barely fit around a small conference table at the time is now grown into more than 70 companies in the state of Connecticut who are licensed to offer the incentive.
Very exciting. 70 solar companies in Connecticut. What explosive growth. When PACE started, we had passive solar houses, a little solar thermal, and then solar thermal became bigger, insulation got better, photovoltaics came on board, some wind came on board, and energy efficiency got better and better and better. So we are seeing tremendous progress in Connecticut. And Connecticut isn't very big, but it's really doing very well as far as solar goes. And when we talk about solar in Connecticut, we're talking about solar jobs in Connecticut, right?
We are, and we're talking almost entirely solar electric systems that convert sunlight into electricity. There are several hundred individuals now working in the installation side of the business in Connecticut. That's not inclusive of suppliers, dealers, manufacturers of small pieces and parts of solar equipment. And that number should jump substantially if legislation before the General Assembly this year passes. The governor and the Connecticut Green Bank have put together a program that would probably see the installation of about 30,000 more home solar systems over the next 5 years.
So perhaps 30,000 more homes. How many homes are there now in Connecticut that have solar?
Just about 10. About 10,000 homes, and that's 10,000 homes. Most of those, or I should say most, close to half of those have been installed over the last 3 or 4 years. The incentive program is now 10 years old. So it's 10 years, 10,000 systems installed. The governor's plan is to have incentive programs and finance programs around to install another 30,000 systems over the
So
next
what
5
we're
years.
seeing is an explosive growth in solar energy. It's like a wonderful disease. It's catching. You hear about your neighbor having it, and then you say to your neighbor, does it really work? And your neighbor says, yes, and I'm saving money, and it's just very, very exciting. So it's not only the jobs for the installers, but it's also the manufacturing jobs that make them out of this, correct?
Yeah, we'd like to see some more manufacturing in the state. Most of almost entirely, the installation or the manufacturing of products is done outside of Connecticut. So that's a sore subject. I've talked to legislators who'd like to see more manufacturing come to the state. There aren't any companies in Connecticut now that are really devoted to manufacturing pieces and parts of solar panels, but who knows, as the industry grows statewide, nationwide, worldwide, we could attract a company here.
Wonderful. Is there anything viewers can do to help this move forward that you can think of?
Buy more solar. I mean, the manufacturers, more manufacturers will get into the game. Those current manufacturers will add shifts to their current workforce if demand grows. So as demand grows, so grows the manufacturing growth. And the more people who buy solar, the more manufacturing takes place, the lower the cost comes down.
And the cost of solar has really gone down, hasn't it?
Price of solar in Connecticut has dropped more than half.
Wow, since when?
Well, since when the program first started 10 years ago. So the incentive program in the state of Connecticut's been a huge success. Maybe the best example of how an incentive program should really work is the residential solar incentive program that the Connecticut Green Bank now manages. I mean, there are some hurdles, there are some barriers still in place. There are some more policies.
What barriers are you talking about?
Well, we'd like to drive the cost down even further. Installers would like to be able to offer solar to homeowners for less cost, but things have to happen. There are policy issues, there are permitting issues at the local level. There are interconnection issues, the cost of getting your system connected to the electrical grid. We'd like to see that streamlined. There are processes that installers have to go through to offer the incentive, working with the Connecticut Green Bank, that we'd like to see streamlined. So there's a lot of work to be done, and to drive the price down even more.
Are there other states that are doing that in a more streamlined fashion?
Yeah, and we've got a bill before the legislature this year that our organization drafted that is patterned after the California law. California is the second largest market in the entire world. So
wow, California is the second largest solar market in the world.
In the world, behind Germany.
Wow.
So they've got some very progressive policies in place. Whenever whenever my members come to me and say we need to change this, I look to what California has in place. And our bill before the legislature this year, the one that we submitted, is patterned after the California law, which would require municipalities to charge a flat fee of X amount that would cover their expense. It would lessen the red tape. There's a significant amount of red tape involved in getting projects permitted, interconnected, and paid for. In fact, it used to be the majority of the cost of a solar installation was the solar panels themselves. Mm-hmm. That's no longer the case. The price of panels have come down so much that the majority of the cost required to get your system installed is called soft costs. That's marketing for companies, the sales process, the installation, the interconnection, the permitting, all the government back and forth. That's a very thick process for installers to go through right now, and part of our role as an association is to streamline that, and that's what we're trying to do.
Wonderful. Mike, you had a great idea that I just loved. You said that and I love this idea anyway, money's tight, and if we combine services, for instance, if let's say Avon and Canton combine services and work together, police or fire, the towns work together, it can cut costs and be much more efficient and not waste money. And you mentioned that if states in the Northeast got together on solar, that we could kind of match the size of California and perhaps work together as an entity, all this, so we're here, an entity, and California is over here, but we're an entity in ourselves. Is that right? And is that possible?
Well, if you want to get legislation passed, if you've got a good solar policy in place in California, you go to one governor, one public utility control, and one energy committee at the legislature. The Northeast region, the 9-state Northeast region, which is New England plus New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York, which is roughly the size of California in terms of population. If you want to get policy passed in our region here, you have to go to 9 governors, 9 public utility control groups, and 9 energy committees. It's difficult to think that we could have the kind of success here in New England that they have in California by doing it as we do now, which is each state passes individual policies. So the association that we just started, the Northeast Solar Energy Market Coalition.
Okay, this is a new one.
It's a new
the
one.
Northeast Solar Energy Market Association.
Yeah, or NESEMC.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. But the idea is to bring associations like mine and work with the other state solar associations.
Does every state have a solar association?
All but 2 in the Northeast. All but Maine and Rhode Island have specific solar business associations. So we're all trying to solve the same problem. We're all trying to have a good interconnection policy. We all like to have shared solar policy. We all like to have good permitting policy and net metering policies. But we're all doing it on our own. So they're all doing it 9 different ways. So the idea is that if we really want to be deploying solar, low-cost solar across the region, states should work with each other and begin adopting policies as a region. So one more hill to climb. Yeah,
beautiful idea, though. And I think it's the answer to lots of problems that we're having in this country, working together in larger groups, cooperatively. Tell me about, you mentioned something that just fascinates me. I just love it. And that's the idea. First of all, I like sharing because I believe in sharing, but shared solar. What is shared solar and how does that work and where are we on that issue?
Well, 10 other states in the country have adopted laws.
What states?
Massachusetts, Ohio, California, Vermont, and 6 others that have done it. They've gone the extra mile to set policy so that people can share ownership of solar. So if my roof is no good for solar, it's either too small, it's too old, it's too shaded, or it just doesn't face the sun, I can co-own or share ownership of a large solar field installed somewhere else in my utilities territory.
Anywhere in your utilities
Anywhere in the utility territory, yep. That's what's been proposed in Connecticut and is already in place.
So if I lived in Canton and had a shaded roof, I could, with shared solar, you get solar energy from someone who lived in Burlington, because that's all CL&P. Is that right?
That's right. So, and that's the case for the majority of people. In Connecticut, 70% of ratepayers, like if you get an electric bill, 70% of people get an electric bill in Connecticut either rent their roof or lease their space, or the roof is too old, too small, too shaded, or doesn't face the sun. That is a broad majority of people. Those people right now cannot get something tangible out of the incentive programs that are in place.
So many people would like to have solar, but for one reason or another, they cannot put it on their roofs.
Right. So legislation put before the General Assembly this year, it was before the General Assembly last year, but we're going to try and get it this year, would allow you to co-own or share ownership of a system down the street or on the other side of the state, as long as it's within your electric utilities territory. And you could own that, and your power purchase, the solar would belong to you, and you would get a credit for it. The solar would be uploaded to the grid, but you would get a credit for it on your electric bill.
Beautiful.
So you could participate. You could be a solar owner, whether or not your roof gets sun on it or not.
I love the idea, too, because it's very much of a community idea. I mean, what a great, let's say you live in a cul-de-sac and you all kind of like solar. Some of you could have solar on your roof, others could buy their share of it. So you kind of share, or it doesn't have to be someone nearby, but what fun to to share the solar, and then it's cheaper. Your bill's going to be cheaper, right?
Your bill's going to be cheaper, and it really gets those 70% of the people who've been funding the program for all these years. So
because there's a surcharge on your electric bill that goes to help fund the solar program.
That's right. So if you've been a Connecticut resident for 10 years, you've been paying into this program for 10 years off your electric bill with the hope that one day the price of solar would be driven down to the point where it was a good economic bargain for you. That day's today. The problem is if your roof isn't good for solar, if you've got too many trees, or your roof is old or small or doesn't face the sun, you can't participate. So that's a big problem. If you've been an investor in the program for 10 years, hoping that someday you could afford it, now you're being told, I'm sorry, you can't participate in the program. You have to pay for it, but you can't participate in it. So the plan that we put before the legislature last year, and again this year, would change that.
It's a beautiful idea. Everyone sharing solar and your price going down, because this show we're talking about today is about money. It's about jobs. It's about more manufacturing parts. It's about saving money on your electric bill, lower electric bills. It's about, of course, good health resulting from all this. It's just very, very exciting. How far are you along with the association? Do you think this is actually going to take place?
With the NESCMC?
Yes.
We just got a federal grant.
Wonderful.
We applied
Mike.
and got a federal grant, and we have partnered. We've got the other states, the other 8 states have agreed to participate. Myself and a gentleman, Carl Robigo, who is one of the great solar leaders in the country, who now works for the Pace Law School in White Plains. We're co-managing the grant. So it's very exciting. I mean, it's nice to have Solar Connecticut to work on our policy here, but after years of trying to get something done on the state level, when I know the other 8 states are trying to do the exact same thing, it's a waste of resources and time for each to act like islands amongst ourselves. So the idea that we can cooperate and get off incentives faster. We would like to get off the state and federal incentive and tax credit as soon as possible. But working together, we can drive down the cost by removing these barriers to solar that are artificially keeping the price of solar high.
I think lots of people don't understand how important it is to have energy made right here, too. It's so important because when you transport energy, for instance, from Hydro-Quebec, first of all, the money is going to Canada. Second of all, there's a loss of energy in the transmission. So here we are, again, talking about money and jobs. It's much more economical not to lose that energy in the transmission lines and have jobs right here, saving money. It's just a win-win-win. And Mike, you're doing a fantastic job to work with the solar installers. How many companies? There are about 70 companies now.
There are 70 companies that have requested to offer the state incentive, and the Connecticut Green Bank has vetted those companies. So there are more than 70 that are eligible to offer the incentive. So if you want to put solar on your roof or your backyard, you've got many companies to choose for, including local companies. These companies.
Mike, how do you choose a company? It's really hard. You know, if there are 70 choices, how in the world would I possibly know which company to choose? How would you go about that?
Well, I think you'd do it the same way if you were going to put an addition on your house or a deck off the back of your
Angie's
house.
List?
Well, I bring that up in that example that I think you definitely want to get more than one quote.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there are websites to go to. You can go to our website, solarconnecticut.org.
Okay, solarconnecticut.org, and what would I find there?
You would find there listed companies that are in good standing with our association, who are contributing to good policy here, who see that it's important to belong to a group trying to push solar in a good way in the state of Connecticut. And my suggestion is, you just like anything else, call 2 or 3 companies, 2 minimum, 3 preferred. I think it's beneficial to find a company that's in your neighborhood. Mm-hmm. You certainly can find a company that's within a 10 or 15 minute drive of your house. There are installation companies.
Will that affect price, do you think?
It can, although you'll find that solar companies will travel from one end of the state to the other to do work. Mm-hmm. There are some terrific companies out there who are offering different products. You can get solar through a lease product with no money down. You can
We've talked about that before, and it's really important. You can get solar through a lease you can have solar on your roof, no money down, and a fixed rate lower than your electric bill usually.
It's possible to do that.
And then as the electricity rates rise, you have that fixed rate. So there's money again. You're making clean energy, you're supporting Connecticut jobs, and you're having the solar on your roof.
In addition to that, there are some terrific loan programs out there that the Connecticut Green Bank offers through these 70 installers. There are incentives that the state offers for people who want to buy them outright. And there's, I think best advice for people to go on the internet and kick around to find out what's the best financial solution for them. For some people, the best way is to purchase it outright. The investment in solar right now is better than many other investments out there.
That's a win-win. You have the actual thing. It isn't up in the pie in the sky, a hedge fund or something. It's a real tangible thing that saves money, helps health, helps jobs. I mean, what could be better?
Well, and it's property tax free. So if you put a $30,000 or $25,000 solar system asset on your roof or your backyard, your property, the value has increased, but there is no increase in property valuation. So the property tax in your house does not go up.
I've heard that your resale value of your house is improved if you sell it because it's built in, your energy's built in.
As time goes by and systems become more prevalent in the state, there's some research that shows that the same house, one house that has solar on it, one house that does not, that the solar home sells faster and for a higher price.
Well, I just can't thank you enough, Mike, for being a real leader and probably one of the leading states, one of the most important industries, in my opinion, that there is. And I want to thank all our viewers for listening to this show because it's about health and money and feel-good energy. This is what I call feel-good energy. If you have solar on your house, you really feel good about that because you're contributing to health.
And thanks to Pace. And thanks to you and Pace for being a positive influence on solar for many, many years here.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, it's been a great joy, and the nicest people are involved in solar, in my opinion. So thank you very much. Take care and keep up the good work. I hope it goes on, and you get the association together. That's just great.
Thanks, Judi.
So